Hey guys, John here. Been a little while. Put out a few of those videos on chain sharpening, the square ground, grinding, modifying chain. Got some pretty good feedback on that and was encouraged to maybe do some videos on actual cutting. Well, been thinking about it, and of course there are hundreds, probably thousands of the how-tos on cutting trees. So I thought I'd take a little stab at it. I'm going to take the approach of getting beyond the basics, but before we go there, I wanted to do this video right from the get-go before we get into the how to cut trees and that sort of thing with safety equipment. Okay, there's the basics, and then I just wanted to share what I do. Okay, so where I'm coming from with this, it's been an evolution, just like everything has been. I mean, look at the harvester here behind me. Everything evolves. Same with the safety equipment. I'll tell you that I was born in '61, so you can do the math. I've been doing this 40 years, steady, full time. I remember when chaps were a new idea, and we didn't like them. They're hot, they're heavy. You got the peer pressure thing going on, right? You're going to be the new guy on the crew wearing the chaps, well, we don't wear those things. Well, reality is it's standard equipment anymore for most of us. Hard hats, right? Standard equipment. I want to take it a little bit beyond just the fundamental, the regular standard safety equipment. Now for chaps, I've gone to pants a long time ago. The chaps to me they're bulky, they got the straps. And nowadays, really, there's no excuse to not have a good pair of cutting pants. The materials they've come up with anymore and the designs, they are very comfortable. You put them on in the morning and away you go. Now, beyond that, on this job, I am a half a mile from anybody. I'm back here up on a rock pile by myself, and I have been hit twice. Two times that over the years were pretty serious. Because of this work that I do with the logger training stuff, I've been all over the country. I've worked with, I think I can confidently say now, probably thousands of forest workers, loggers, landowners, power line crews, the whole schmeal. So because I do that kind of work, I'm kind of privy to the stories. Okay, I've lost some guys myself that I know. I hear of guys getting hurt. And my take on this is, when I hear of someone getting hurt, worst case, of course, fatality, paralysis type of injuries, what I keep in mind is, because I know of situations personally, and when I talk to folks who are directly involved with other situations where folks have gotten hurt, here's the reality check. It doesn't have to happen, and it doesn't always happen to someone who didn't know what they were doing. This kind of stuff, right, the injuries, it happens and can happen to any of us. So just a quick little sidebar, if you're of the mindset, if you look up and you're careful, don't worry about it, well, this video probably isn't for you. But I like to talk to those of us who live in reality and acknowledge the reality that it can happen. We do our best, but it's just a numbers game in the environment that we work in. So with that said, I'm out here on my own. The acknowledging the reality that it can happen. I have taken to carrying with me a spot unit, and I have this right in my pants pocket. I actually have a little tether strap that sticks out of the pocket so I can grab it real quick. And this unit here, you can look them up, capital SPOT. There's other companies, I believe it's InReach, they make these, and you can get variations of them. This is the basic, but this is a satellite system here where I can, if I push that SOS button right now, that's going to send a signal to a satellite. I'm registered into the system. That will light up in their office, and when it does, They will dispatch search and rescue to where I am anywhere on the planet. So they don't need an address and all that kind of stuff. They just know exactly where I am. They also know some fundamentals about me. They know I am a male. I was born in '61. I have no heart conditions, no medications, and no allergies. That's important for them to know, so that between the time that I am conscious enough, if I were to get in a bind and I push my button and search and rescue folks, the trained medics do show up and I can no longer respond. They have some of that fundamental basics where it can make a difference. They can apply some treatment to me that might make the difference on me getting out, and staying alive, versus them showing up and they find this old guy laying on the ground. Something happened to him. We got to get this guy bundled up and get him to a hospital. We can't really do much treatment to him because some treatments can react to medications and so on. So just a heads up on that one. So spot unit, I own this little widget, stays in my pocket. You can look it up. I believe it's about $150, maybe $200 a year subscription, and I keep that right with me. Beyond that, I have modified my belt. Okay, whether I've got, this is the belt here I carry when I'm cutting out of the harvester because I'm in and out of the harvester, or I have a belt that's actually right, some regular pants belt. And when I say I modified it, I have simply punched holes right up to the buckle. Okay. What I could use this for, remember this is all under that column of the what if something were to happen. This right here, right, I could have a bad cut in my leg, and I'm going to tip the camera down just a little bit here, I'm hoping, so you can see that I can very easily throw that thing on my leg with a little slack anywhere here, and I can simply grab a stick off the ground. I could grab my axe handle. It can take anything. And I can tell you what, right there, right? 2 wraps, and with my fingertips, I am really squeezing that leg. I could slow down a bad bleeder very simply, and then it can make the difference of making it out of the woods, buying myself some time. My suggestion on a crew scenario, if everybody on the crew had this as part of their first aid kit, can you see where you could stabilize a fractured leg? They call it an anatomical splint, where you simply take a straight piece of stick between the legs, pack it with your jacket to cushion it a little bit, and a couple of guys with this type of belt could actually splint one leg to the other simply to stabilize it, and it can help with extraction, so that you don't have a broken leg fracture making something worse. You could, if you're working by yourself, right, there's a lot of options here. Just get creative. This sort of thing here, you could splint it up and even carry it, over your neck. Say you've hurt your arm. It'd be nice if you could just kind of stabilize your own arm while you get yourself down out of the woods. There's a couple ideas. Just get creative with something like that. It's a done deal. One quick little comment. The belt, it wants to be a sewn-on buckle, like a sewn-on or riveted, not a snap-on type of buckle. The snaps, right, if you were to use it in an emergency situation, it may just pop off and then it's kind of useless. Okay, so that's a couple things I've done there. I've got my first aid kit with the fundamentals, blood stopper pad. I keep Benadryl in it. Bee stings, we're going into cold weather now. Benadryl needs to be replaced every year. It does age out. So that's a whole, I don't mean to make this a first aid class, but that's a good thing to have with you. I have been stung. I don't go into the shock situation, but I do know that if I were to get stung up in the face and neck area, I would swell up a lot. I'm out here in the woods. I've got some Benadryl with me, and I would be popping that while I get myself out of the woods. Okay, Beyond that, remember now, we're taking this beyond the fundamentals. I have made up a work harness for myself. Now this is just your basic diamondback contractor belt. You see a lot of guys in the woods going to the harnesses rather than belts carrying their tools. And what I like about this system is, one, I got my whistle with me, right? Good thing to have with you. If you're trying to signal, you know help is coming. You're trying to get them to your exact location. But what I have adapted to this is 2 shoulder pads and this back pad. Okay? So what I'd like to, kind of frame this with is, statistically, what is our real risk out here in the woods? And I'm going to throw in some pictures. And I know the idea of getting hit by the tree thing, it's possible. But the numbers show the reality of it is it's not getting hit by the tree you're cutting. It's getting hit by this stuff, right? It's this, I call it shrapnel. That gets broken loose when your tree's going over. This kind of stuff comes from behind us or overhead. And there's so much of it in the woods. And again, I threw in these few of these pictures. It's a work environment that I've often thought if there was a factory with these kind of hazards up in the ceiling, OSHA would shut it down in an instant. But we work with it every day. With that in mind, knowing the statistics, the numbers show that, the injuries, serious injuries are coming from this struck by overhead thing. We wear the hard hat, right? I'm thinking, could I adapt a little bit more for the what if just in case? And my idea is these pads, okay? These come from motocross jackets. Now, I'm not saying that they've been tested for this or anything like that. This is what I do, just sharing an idea. About 60 bucks, okay? And that back pad, think about the risk of our spine. The shoulder pads, right? Think about anatomically what our shoulders are. This chunk of wood coming from 100 feet in the air or off the top of a dead post, right, coming down at us, that can bust things up really bad. And we can't be busting up our shoulders. A hit in the spine, right, can be extremely serious. With that said, I am completely aware of the balance with safety equipment. It was kind of like the argument with the chaps years ago. They're too hot, they're too heavy, but we got used to them and we adapted better material and we can make them comfortable. There's that balance that we all are dancing here with safety equipment. We're trying to wear what we can to minimize the risk of an injury or reduce the severity of the injury. There's 2 issues there, right? Safety equipment can keep us from getting hurt. It can also minimize an injury, if we were to get hit. So with that in mind, these pads here, I was just going into the idea, just like the hard hats, right? You get wrapped in the head, you're kind of like, wow, that could have hurt. These pads here, it's the same idea. But that balance is, we can't put ourselves in an armored suit. We can't get anything done. So it's kind of a personal risk, personal decision on your own there. With that covered, I've also thrown in, I just remembered I also keep with me a personal, it's a small tourniquet type deal. Okay, the military guys gave us these things. You can get them online. And this here, I can, stabilize a bandage. If it's a really bad one, right, I can crank this thing right up. Of course, you'd want to be up in the shoulder and all of that. Again, I'm not turning this into a first aid kit class, but they do make these if you want to have something like this right on you out here in the woods. So there's some ideas, okay? I'm going to get into doing what I do for production cutting. It's going to go beyond the the fundamentals of the notch and the hinge and all that sort of stuff. It's really getting into the finesse and the nuances of being able to do this long term, and that, what I always say, it's a three-legged stool. It's minimize the risk of getting hurt, right? Safety. It's efficiency. We got to cut wood. We're trying to make a living here. We're trying to make some money. And that third leg of that stool is always quality of our work, whether it's not damaging the tree we're cutting or damaging the woods and the soils and so on that's around us. So, with that said, I hope that gives you some ideas. One more quick comment, how I put these on, okay? I used a propane torch, pair of vice grips holding a nail, and I heated the tip of the nail up, just the very point of the nail, and I heated that up, and you can melt a hole right through this nylon belting, right here or through this one here. And I just take that, I've got the pads placed where I wanted them, and you can also melt a hole through the pad. So I just melted a hole down through, it seals it right up, it doesn't run at all. A couple of zip ties, and I don't know, 15-20 minutes, right? Just took me a minute to kind of figure out where I wanted them, and it's on, very comfortable, no big deal. I've actually seen, they got some of the guys out west running the bigger saws, and you'll see the shoulder pad, right? That's where they carry their saw. Great idea. You could just put one on the other side just to maybe give you a little protection on that one side. So, just some ideas. Hey guys, be careful out there. Talk to you later. I want to show you something that I've done to my first aid kit. These kits are something you can get at a saw dealership. They're in, under the accessories of saw equipment, and they really are meant for anyone running a saw. Have it right on your belt. A lot of chaps, have that pouch right on the chap. That's really the original idea of having that there, was so you can have that first aid kit right with you. Its primary issue is saw cut, and you want to have that something that you can try to control that bleeding. That's really, really critical. Got the Benadryl, right? Change it out every year. But what I wanted to take a minute and show you is a little modification I did. This is a mirror, okay? The mirror, of course, if you were to get an injury, say a saw cut, that'd be bad, right? Up in the face, upper shoulder, something where you can't see it. You could take a mirror, take a look, and like, okay, I see what I did, and try to treat it and get yourself down for some help. Something in your eye, there's a lot of reasons you could have the mirror. But what I did, and I kind of got this idea from having lived through some pretty traumatic situations in the woods. I've carried 3 people out of the woods. 2 of them were compound leg fractures, and 1 was a broken ankle. I know the feeling of when it hits the fan, and oh, what do we do? I've been hit. The second time I was hit, I actually got the hard hat got hit right here. It split the hard hat, and it ripped my eyebrow open. So I had, this thing bleeding here. So here's where I'm coming from. When you're injured yourself or coworkers injured, you're really freaking out, okay? Unless you're some sort of a trained military medic or something where you can just keep you cool, you're freaking out. You're hurt, you're scared, and you want to get to some help. The idea of this mirror to be able to evaluate an injury is great, but there is a film, a plastic cover that they put on there to keep it clean while it's in your first aid pouch. So here's my thinking. If I were to get injured up in the face, someplace that I want to take a look at and I'm bleeding, by the time my scared shaking fingers get this out of my first aid kit, I got to get my fingernail underneath that little piece of plastic. Right now I'm all bloody and shaky, and there I go. I drop it right onto the ground. So all I did was took a piece of tape, okay, double-faced one end of it, and then stuck it to the face, and I can very easily peel that cover off, keep my fingers off the mirror, and then I can do my evaluation and see what I've got. Hey, if you find these videos helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm glad to try to put stuff out there that's helpful. Happy to answer any questions, and I'm gonna put up a little poster here on our website, and we do hands-on training on your site. That's something I've been doing for almost 30 years. So we work with loggers, landowners, we call it sort of a non-logger class, homeowners, power companies, fire departments, anybody, road crews, anybody handling a saw. And we have all levels of training. We use the Game of Logging curriculum, so you can check that out also. Happy to answer any questions, and we'll see you soon.